Kemple View is a low secure psychiatric hospital operated by Partnerships in Care. Essentially, we use Traka for key management. Key management is a key issue in a secure psychiatric hospital, but there are keys beyond those just to our wards. We have vehicle keys, office keys and the like. And on this site, we've integrated Traka with a door entry system, an electronic door entry system, to give us the most security that we think we can get without the employment of 24-hour security guards. We're in the midst of a major rebuild on the site, a refurbishment of the site. We've introduced a further 25 brand new beds. The bulk of the site is relatively old. So we were looking for security and efficiency and predictable cost management. We went to the internet, we found Traka, we phoned Traka, and Traka responded. And then we thought at the first meeting that we could do something together, and we stayed with them. So in truth, we didn't shop around a great deal, but we were impressed by their initial response to our inquiries. Once we realised that we needed to integrate this with a separate door entry system, Traka subcontracted the work with the door entry system, and they took project management responsibility for it.
I operate the computer system for the Traka cabinet. As each person comes along to the cabinet, they each have a grey fob which is allocated by the computer system only to them. And that has now registered on the computer that that person has opened such a cabinet and taken such a key, closed the door, and then the 14-hour curfew starts. I can come into the hospital in the morning and I can tell whether anybody has gone over that curfew. In other words, they have a key off-site. In other words, we know exactly where each key is at any one time.
The clever bit from our point of view is the integration of the Traka key management system and the fob, the electronic door entry system. If somebody takes a set of keys off-site and we have concerns about those keys, we can turn off the fob system, and that means that staff cannot enter the buildings to then use their keys. We have a report comes up, we review that report daily, and we're able to name and shame people into returning their keys. And we've moved, in truth, fairly quickly from a significant number of people who didn't see the importance of returning their keys within the curfew period to very few people failing to return their keys, and maybe only one or two chronic recidivists who we are dealing with diligently. Our building work has been in 3 phases. The first phase is the building we're meeting in now in one 10-bedded ward, and that's where we shook the thing out. We've extended Traka into our old buildings, and that's been much smoother and more successful, even though we're retrofitting it into buildings that are 100 years old. So that is, imagine, quite a significant task. And we predict that putting Traka into the 2 brand new buildings, which come on stream in October, will go very smoothly. One of the things we're using more and more is the ability to restrict access to keys. We've got a relatively small fleet of vehicles, but we have a significant number of users of those vehicles. And historically, it's always very difficult to track where the keys for the vehicles are. Human nature says, I use the vehicle, I put the keys in the drawer of the desk, and I forget about them. And the next person who wants to use the vehicle can't use the keys. Now, when a driver takes the vehicle keys out of the Traka cabinet, we know that he or she has the keys. And they are certainly highly motivated to return the keys at the end of the day because they have responsibility for the vehicle. As a consequence of which, we find there's less damage to our vehicles. Our vehicles are more frequently full of petrol when they should be, and we do find that the keys are back where they should be at the end of the working day. It's a little thing, but led us to understand how we can restrict access to other keys. So we have a limited number of Grand Master keys on the site, and they're accessible to our head of maintenance, senior managers and the like, and they sit in the Traka cabinet with a certainty that only designated managers can pull those keys. And we can see advancing this theory in terms of the management of dangerous drugs and the like. So the more we live with it, the more we can see we can use it, I think is the truth. In our very early days, in truth to tell, we did have a major computer crash. It did potentially compromise the entire system on a bank holiday. And we had major concerns about, well, what we were going to do with this.
Hi, is that Peter? Hiya.
I felt they went the extra yard and stayed at the end of the phone and talked us through the problem.
Thanks very much. Bye.
I think we're now fairly literate with the whole system, and that's very good for us. And I think the more at home we are with it, the more we can use its features.